You can see behind me it's largely deserted. There are 4 flights that are scheduled to arrive this afternoon, and passengers on those flights will be part and parcel of a new pilot program that is being launched today and which is hugely controversial. A year ago, one would not have imagined that we'd be in this situation. Now, when you arrive in Israel, you have one of 2 choices. Either you quarantine in an army hotel, or you can go home and do a home quarantine for 10 days, but now you have to go home with an electronic monitoring system. This entails wearing an electronic bracelet either around your wrist or your ankle. Now, this bracelet is part of a tracking system. It's connected to a smartphone, which is connected to a sticker that is placed on one of the walls of a person's home. The company monitoring the whole system will receive some kind of signal the moment the person steps foot out of their home. So it's a way to try and stop people breaking home quarantine, and it's also a way for the Israelis to reopen the skies and return to some kind of normality. The company that has designed the technology says that everything is safe and that people should not be worried. In fact, it is not as intrusive, this technology, as other apps that are currently being used in Israel. The company has also stressed the point that it's not monitoring any kind of personal information. It's not recording any information, and at the same time, it's not taking pictures. It's also said that the bracelet is, to quote, comfortable, that it is efficient, that people won't even know that they have it on them. It's very light and it's waterproof. They've actually gone so far as to call it a freedom bracelet, saying that it gives passengers arriving in Israel the choice to do an army hotel quarantine or a home quarantine. Having said all of that, it still hasn't satisfied many people who are critical of the whole program.
Asking travelers to choose between military-enforced quarantine motel and an electronic bracelet, I don't even know where to start with this.
It is a nightmare happening at warp speed and trialed in Israel before its global debut.
Israel launches pilot program to track returning passengers using electronic bracelets, and the Knesset passed a law allowing disclosing identities of unvaccinated to authorities. Watch how the pandemic continues to erode any semblance of civil rights.
Now, land and air borders here in Israel have been closed since January, and at this point in time, they will remain closed for at least another 2 weeks. The only people being allowed into the country are stranded Israelis abroad. An independent organization, the Israel Democracy Institute, is a watchdog and is worried about the direction in which this country is headed.
A concern is that the erosion of the rights affected is not proportionate, but rather extreme, even in view of the current health challenge. The extreme changes in policy from one of a fully open airport to a complete closure without warning, catching unaware citizens who traveled abroad lawfully with the full expectation that they would be able to return, and without giving them a chance to prepare accordingly, creates intolerable human situations.
Now, the pilot system sees 100 tracking systems being issued. There is a plan in place to expand this to 1,000, but that depends on legislation. We've also heard from the Health Ministry that they haven't ruled out the possibility of reintroducing monitoring people's cell phones. And that was something that the Israeli Internal Security, the Shin Bet, was involved in last year, but it also proved to be hugely controversial.